Hey everyone, and we are back together at Superweek TV. In this specific occasion, I have not Superweek attendees, but super important invitees to the interview. I have Tim Wilson with us. So hi, Tim. His line, you can see it on the screen, and he will be with me today, and he will be one of the last interviews of the day. We also want to say hi to a person, is Julie or Jamie? Julie?
Julie,
perfect. Hi, Julie. It's nice to have you looking at us. And thanks a lot, Tim, for that. We have a bit of a problem yesterday. We wanted to have it yesterday, but due to the fact it's live, at the end, we were able to manage today. So thanks a lot for being here with us. And the title, I really love it because it's kind of but it was kind of a different subject than the usual one. Instincts and feelings in analytics. Why this title? Because Tim Wilson, I think that a lot of you know him for the podcast that is going on for a long time. I don't know how many years now.
We just hit 10 years.
Wow. So Power Hour, the podcast. So if you don't know it, I really suggest you to follow it. He also got out with a book a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Perfect. Analytics the right way. And one of the other titles that we thought was like, there is a wrong way. But I thought that also another thing that was really interesting about him is the new business he's founding, his own brand, I can tell, is Facts and Feelings. And feelings is really a word that you don't see a lot in analytics, no? And I really wanted to focus on that and maybe ask you why you put that word and what it means for you, and also trying to go on from that point and see where we arrive at the end of the meeting.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, not a sales pitch for the company, but Facts and Feelings was the point of view that my co-founders and I felt was trying to elevate the human side. Like we feel like there's a little bit of a analytics hangover. One of the co-founders refers to it that way, that 20 years ago, digital came on the scene and we all got excited that we could capture so much more information about what our customers and prospects were doing. And it just became this unstoppable force of chasing more and more and more data, with this idea that if we just have enough data, then, we have the answers, we have the truth. It's that's going to tell us everything. And the whole industry kind of blew up. The thousands of companies that are basically in the business of collecting or managing or piping or governing data, and forgetting that really the data kind of has to go hand in hand with creative thought and human ideation and gut instinct. That we've watched so many companies that, it's always 6 months out. Like earlier this week, I was talking to someone about kind of this bringing in the human, the thought component. He's like, yeah, we totally need to get that. But we're implementing the Salesforce CDP. That's going to be a 6-month project. We're going to implement that. And then we're going to get to actually, doing stuff with it. And I've just have seen that time and time again, where it's always chasing the next. There's always more data to chase, wiring it up, or GDPR, or server-side tracking, or something. And it's always, we're just kind of forgetting that, to actually use the data, you have to have some thought of ideas of what you want to do with it, as opposed to treating the data as the end goal in and of itself.
Yeah, so actually it reminds me of a couple of things that came up during the conference, but also with the interview I had before with Artem. I had an interview like the one before yours, and we were speaking also the future of analytics, where we are going, and he really stressed out that maybe it also be the time to focus on what we like, due to the fact that a lot of things will change in a short time. But you're speaking also about data, and it's kind of everything mingles a bit, because also what we hear here at Superweek is a lot about how to manage those data. And there was a talk about that of, if I'm not wrong, of Matthew, that really spoke about the right question to ask, and not just begin a task and then a client comes to you and asks you like, yes, I want a dashboard on Power BI, for example, about the sales of this specific product, or I want to see how many people reach this page. And then some people just do it and began to grab data about this information. Well, maybe the objective of the person is completely a different one, or you don't really understand why he wants to do that. So maybe it's also related to instinct and feelings as well. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, we've talked about it for years. Like, we have to be aligned with the business objectives. We have to understand the business question. And I think the great analysts that I've known really, when we talk about communication being so important, on the one hand, it's like, well, when you're presenting analysis results, you have to present them effectively, and that's communication. Mm-hmm. But there's the upstream component of like actually getting a true connection with your business partners as to what are they really trying to do. When they ask you for a dashboard, or can you add something to the dashboard, that's not what they really want. I mean, they even may think that's what they want, because even they have been conditioned. Our business partners are also conditioned to think that if I just get the right filter or the right segment or the right slice or the right breakdown, insights are going to emerge. And so it's like, it's not just the analytics industry that I think is kind of hurt by that. It's also our business partners. They get into this, what was the Deming quote, in God we trust, all others must bring data. That's been like wielded like a cudgel, like don't give me your opinion. I don't want your opinion. I've got the facts. And that elevates the data being too high. Like, somebody sat down and said, and we know who the somebody was. Zoli sat down and said, I think it would be valuable and useful and generate a bunch of good to actually in a town, and in the mountains outside of Budapest, to start an analytics conference. Like, I don't think there was no amount of data was going to put that into his head. And like, you can apply that throughout business. If you want to differentiate yourself, the next level of data is not where that spark's going to really come from.
It's not really also something that maybe AI can do to suggest you to create a conference in Budapest about analytics. So it's really also feeling that part that is still stick to us as human beings. And it's another thing you said that also, like, I'm really relating a lot with other things that happen here at Superweek and different interviews that I've made, and really a bunch of them. I really love them.
I've spent the whole week, like, missing Superweek and catching little glimpses and pieces of it here and there on the live stream. So now, as you're just reminding me, you're making me feel worse.
No, come on. It's one of the reasons why you are here. So the next year you can remind it and return back. But because also it would have been your 10th year or something here, or maybe kind of?
No, I felt like I was a late arriver. So I think I went 4 or 5.
Really?
6,
okay.
Yeah. I'm not one of the
earliest, like Julian was one of those. But it's nice because it's really connected with a lot of subject we touched in the interviews. One of the things you said, like, also related to the fact that a client comes to you and asks for something, also related to tools, and it just asks you to implement. We had an interview with Ugur and Christian Okay, I have some issues with name, we know that, but we spoke about being tool agnostic, and if someone comes to you with the idea, yes, I want to implement that, that, and that, and maybe it's not really an analyst or a strategist or an architect or whatever, and he really knows the thing, and you think that his idea is the best, and then he arrives to you, you're not just someone that do the things, but also think about it, and they say, no, let's speak about what's before. Let's speak about what your objective is and try to understand if that is the right tool for you. And maybe is that something that is the important part, and maybe also what you want as well, no? I kind of, it's more like consultancy. Really understand the user needs and try to give them the best option for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's heresy to say it, but I think most organizations have enough data. The data is clean enough. Even if we said stop collecting all the data, stop worrying about the data, no company could. Like, there's so much momentum behind that. As soon as it pivots to, so rather than taking the framing of what are we really trying to do, and now let's figure out what tool we need to add to get that, I kind of like to take the framing of we're not going to go gather any new data unless we're running an experiment, because sometimes, I mean, that's the other challenge, is because we've collected billions of rows of data, we somehow just expect that we have all that data, there must be value in it. And so if somebody's really trying to understand, if offer A or offer B would work better, then you should probably run a test if you're really trying to figure it out. And there are lots of cases where all that data we have is not, it would be cheaper and easier to run a survey. If you have a question about, why are our users not interested in using this feature? Like, well, you could go and try to crunch all your digital analytics or product analytics data, or you could just, ask them. But that really starts with this, and it doesn't mean you have to go and buy and roll out a fully super robust, survey data collection tool. Like, I kind of want us to be a little scrappier. Say, if we really got a question that's really, really bothering us, or an idea that we can turn into a hypothesis, and then say, okay, if that idea, we know that we could do something useful and interesting, if that idea seems to be true, then let's ask, okay, what are our options for actually, validating that idea? As opposed to, can you give me more reports and, bring the insights when when they come? This idea of give me the monthly report and include the insights and recommendations is just so broken, because it's like the data is going to generate insights. I'm like, no, I think the data supports insights, those instincts, the ideation, the creativity. I think AI as a ideation companion is great. Asking AI to give me insights or tell me how that campaign ran, I think it's going to fall very, very short.
So we still need people, and it's kind of nice what you're doing here. Like, every word you say, it really reconnects me to the conference itself and some of the speeches we have seen. And I've seen the one from Steen, that it was about AI and how people and AI are collaborating right now, and other things that are coming up. Like, also, for example, that tool, there is a presentation of Christian and that was interesting, the GA4 data form tool that they managed to do because they really needed to solve a problem. And also another thing I was thinking, if we just grab data for having this report, as you said, like a monthly report with tons of data that we don't really need, and is also kind of linking to the sustainability speech of Elena and money, because if you have tons of data and you have used just a little fraction of it and the others, I don't know, maybe just in case, just in case I need them. And then Matt Gershov, and we spoke about it. So it's kind of nice also to have you here because we are kind of connecting everything that happened during this week through your talk and it kind of a wrap up of what happened with you, and you were not there. So it's kind of nice because whatever you say is also something that came up during this week. So it's something that maybe is also really felt all over the analytics community. And I really want to stop 1 second on one of the last sentences you said, these weekly reports. Maybe it could be nice. What's your suggestion? Because I really heard a lot of people having the request from us consultant, can I have the weekly report and tell me what's happening and what's maybe I will steal your ideas, but it will be nice to have your point of view.
I mean this, and I feel like I've done this, and it does take a transition, but to me it's fine to have a weekly or monthly or whatever that cadence is interaction, like a schedule. But when I approach the weekly readout, to me, it should be the way it works most effectively, a very, very short, here's how we're performing against the targets that we set for our outcome-oriented KPIs. That is just how are we delivering against the expectations that we collectively, not the analytics team, the analysts with the business said, this is what we expect this channel or our website or the business to do. And it's got targets set, they're good metrics, and it's like, here's how we're doing. This is working, this is not. The rest of it is much more hypothesis driven, that says, okay, and these were the hypotheses that we had agreed in the last week's meeting that we were going to try to validate. And we can't validate them all in a week, but becoming much more of this is what we learned. We had specific hypotheses or ideas that we were tracking, and we want to run through the status of those. This one is a test that's running. This one is a model that's being built. It's going to take 3 weeks. This is one that we actually delivered the results and we validated the hypothesis, and you took this action, and that's good. And then the last piece is, but where are we now? Let's look ahead. What's keeping us up at night? What's not working? We're missing on this KPI. What are our collective ideas? It goes back to that human instinct component. What might be going on? What do we think in our brains might be going on? Let's prioritize those. Let's figure out how we're going to validate those. So, you know what, when we get together in another week or 2 weeks or a month, we're playing that back. So it's not just kind of this passive, the business shows up and says, tell me what you got. The business is very much engaged with saying, what do we think might be happening? What are our ideas for something we could do, something that might be happening, something that might be a problem? And so it's a much more engaged and continuous cycle. And the report is just like, this is working and this isn't. And you know, if you're exceeding a target on a KPI, I don't need to explain why we exceeded our target. Like, we had a plan, we exceeded the target. Maybe we just got lucky, or maybe our plan worked. It doesn't really matter. That number's looking good. We need to focus on the stuff that's not hitting our targets. But that also means you have to have set targets, which is another human exercise.
And I will have 2 points out here from this. I understand why they put your name in the program of Experimentation Island without you, because really that is like a way of thinking that is really experimental and is more similar to maybe a CRO approach, A/B testing, understanding which are the perks of some approaches than others, no?
I mean, somewhat, and a plug for the book, we talk about kind of anecdotal evidence, descriptive evidence, and scientific evidence. And scientific evidence is experimentation, and that's where you get causation. Descriptive evidence is the world of the sea of data that we're working with, where we can do model. There's a lot of pitfalls with that, but there's anecdotal evidence can be fine too. We may have an idea that we say, if this is true, we could do this thing and it would work. And maybe the best way to actually, it's not super high stakes. Maybe we should just call up 5 customers and ask them to validate this idea. So splitting up is this a analytics function versus an experimentation function versus a research function. Like the silos happen in the wrong spot. Like it shouldn't really matter which mechanism is being used. We should have a really, really well-formed idea and then say, okay, we have an idea. We know what we would do if that idea holds up. Now, given the nature of that idea, that hypothesis, what's the best way for us to validate it? How strong of the evidence? How much can we spend? And then we decide, should we run an experiment? Should we just go, run a regression on our the data we already have? Should we actually go out and survey our customers? But all too often it turns out, well, like, what's the research team delivering in their monthly report? How many tests did the experimentation team run? Like it's just, it feels wrong. Like it's weird silos of analytics and experimentation functions as opposed to just supporting the business.
But another thing that came to my mind, and maybe also from the people at home that are following us, that is really it was crossing in my mind, but also that it requires a lot of effort, no? Because it's not just, yes, I'm my weekly report, I already know what's, not weekly, monthly, whatever, I already know what to do, and there's definitive, and maybe also with AI it's really easy, no? Because after a while you can also implement a solution that can go on by yourself, by itself. But right now you're taking another point of view. It's kind of also a switch of mindset that maybe people already have, but it really requires a lot of effort, and also not just from the consultant, but as you say, also from the business, because it's a process that really involves the business inside it, no?
Absolutely. I mean, it is a much more human function than, so it does take the need for an organization to say, this isn't working. Our reports are just getting longer. I mean, I've had multiple cases. There's one that's very recent of a client that says, I just need to go through and find everything that might look odd that somebody might notice and ask me about. I need to find it before they do. And I'm like, what kind of running scared, non-collaborative way are you working? That's terrible. I had a client years ago who said, we do a biweekly report to our brand partners, and I just have to dig around and like find something interesting to tell them. And it's like, is that really like, that is so broken. And the brand partners hated it. I mean, so it just winds up being, AI can do anomaly detection really, really well and say these things look odd, but most things that look odd are kind of one-time anomalies that you can't actually act on. So you just wind up chasing, and it's again thinking that the tooling is going to give us, we're going to have more efficient anomaly detection. It's going to tell us, oh, Northern California had an uptick in paid search for brand terms, last week. Do you really want to spend cycles? Like, what are the chances that that actually matters? But it is this draw to say, but if I could just get a tool to generate all of these for me, somehow that's going to move me forward. And it's like, no, like that's not going to move. It will occasionally, it will occasionally find just enough to let people feel like that is the path forward. But it's actually, I think, horribly, horribly inefficient and ineffective.
Okay, so I think we need to wrap up and leave and give the mic to the stage, to the live stage. But I will try to sum up a bit what we have said in the last part, and tell me if I'm wrong or right and you agree or not. But we can say that actually we need to use a bit more what is really related to our as human beings, and can be feelings and so on, but try to leave those activities that are more boring and repetitive to maybe an AI tool, and maybe focus on something more difficult. So it's really communication and trying to speak with each other and understand what really matters for the business, but it requires a bit more of effort, right?
Yeah. Or use the AI to have a hard conversation. Don't just say, I can ask the AI the right prompt and it's going to give me everything. No, like really engage with it, but make sure that you're thinking about what it's actually giving you back and processing it.
So thanks a lot for the time. Thanks a lot for connecting with us, and also for the time there, because I really think it's quite early. And
Thanks. Next time I'll see you in person.
Yes, I really hope so.
Thanks
And it will be awesome. Sometimes my English gets stuck.
All right.
And but luckily I made people laugh. So thanks a lot, Tim. Again, it was really nice to have you at least online. And I leave the stage, did the word to the stage. Thanks you. Right. And it is the last for me, and we will see next year. Thanks a lot to everyone.